All right, ladies and gentlemen, so we're back for the second part of matrices and using reduced row echelon form. So one of the things that we talked about is to find the equations that are in standard form. For instance, the top equation is already ready to go. For the purpose of these videos, I'm not going to talk about the matrix equation. We're going to go straight to the augmented matrix and solving it. So keep in mind that signs matter. So because it's a -2 there, it's a -2 in my matrix. Minus 5y, so I'm going to have a -5 here in my y column. And it's a positive 4z and equals 21. Okay. So one of the problems is what we did yesterday. Well, I guess maybe not there. Let's work it out over here. So -5x plus z equals 21 plus 5. So remember how we did this. We came, and from the equal sign, we're going to break it in half. And we want to move this 5y to the other side. And so how do we move it to this side? We undo that addition, and we subtract 5y. And what we do to one side, we do to the other. Now we want to put them in order. So remember that x goes first, y goes second, and z goes third. And what does it equal? The constant that was left over on the other side. So now we have -5, -5. If it helps to remember, there's a 1 coefficient in front of that z, and 21 on the other side. Okay, so let's talk about the last one. The last one, let's see, we start with x, but there's no x there. There's y, and there's z, and those are good. So if we don't have the x, think about this. What amount of money could I give you, a dollar amount, that won't change your money? Here's $0. I can give everybody $0. Oh yeah, kind of redundant, but it doesn't affect how much money you have. And so in mathematics, we do the same thing. And so we're going to fill in a 0. We don't see them, so there's 0 x's. And so here, 0 is my x column, -4, my y column, -4 for the z, and 8 for the constant on the other side. Okay, so keep in mind that we have 3 rows, we have 4 columns. Okay, so let's go solve it. Let's get our solutions. Okay, so a calculator page, menu 75, menu 711. Okay, so I want 3 rows, I want 4 columns, and now we can start typing in the values from our matrix. -2, -5, and 4. All right, remember tab? And then we had 21 on the other side. Okay, yet again, let's go get that next row of numbers. And as we're putting them in, we're also checking that numbers and signs are correct and in the right locations. So -5, -5, 1, and 21. Whoops. All right, so -5, tab, -5, tab. Uh-oh, I forgot already. 1 and 21. Okay, tab again. 0, -4, -4. Okay, so just double checking. Those numbers and signs are correct. And we can hit enter. Awesome. And so we're going back to, let's focus on that we have whole numbers here and those diagonal ones. So those diagonal ones are important. They're letting us know that these are in fact the solutions. So -1, -3, and 1. Okay, so keep in mind that this is my x column, my y column, my z column. So right away, I know x is -1, y is -3, and z is 1. And I can also write this as a point in three-dimensional space, an order triple. And these are always written in the order of the alphabet. Okay, so let's take a look at a second example. And these next examples goes into special cases. So you can have gaps, and I gotta fill those in with a 0. And now we'll take a look at what happens when you don't get the diagonal ones. So with this one, let's box in those equations that are already in standard form. So this one's already in standard form. So our matrix, let's draw that bracket. 4, -4 for the y, 2 for the z, and that's our separation from the equal sign, and -14. So remember my first video, we were combining those two matrices together, and that's why that dashed line is there. Over here, if you notice, you're missing z. So how can I write this one? I can write it as 4x plus 2y plus 0z equals 14. Why is that important? Because 4 goes here and 2 goes there. But 14 didn't go here, it was 0. The coefficient of z that we couldn't see that was missing. And 14 on the other side. Alright, and the last one, this one's kind of easy because here we're missing, hopefully you can finish this for me, we're missing x. And we'll be cheesy when it's like this, and we'll just fill it in up front. And we'll put the 1 coefficient for z. So our last row is 0, -3, 1, and -10. Okay, so we're going to get some interesting numbers this time when we solve this. So you're going to see some fractions, and the bottom row is going to be zeros, the first 3. All right, let's go. So keep in mind the other way I showed you guys in the other video is you can type RREF. So RREF, whoops, parentheses, sideways face. So two kind of ways of approaching it. Which way do you like? Because keep in mind the other way, if I didn't want to do this one, is menu 7, 5, menu 7, 1, 1. And yet again, I can go choose those rows and columns. Either which way works. Okay, 4, -4, and 2. Remember, I'm using tab to move between those cells. Okay, next row. 4, 2, 0, 14. Okay, and the last row. 0, -3, 1, -10. And I just want to make sure my numbers and signs are correct. Oh, I can see the mistake. So right there, that should have been -3, and this should have been +1. Okay, so now I've double checked my numbers and my signs, and that's important. If it's data entry, then what you input is extremely important. Okay, so we get this funky looking thing over here. And I'm going to go ahead and copy that over. Okay, so what I want you to do is I want you to highlight or circle the bottom rows so that it's apparent that this is what we have to focus on. This is our key. And it tells me one of two special cases, either no solutions or infinite solutions. So if I take this guy and we make an equation. So remember, x column, y column, z column, and this is the number that it equals on the other side. So we have 0x plus 0y plus 0z equals 1. So think about what's 0 times x, 0 times y, and 0 times z. And what we get each step of the way is all of these are 0. And if we add 0 together, all we get is just more 0. But here's a question. Does 0 equal 1? And what this tells us, this is a false statement. And so what does this tell us? This tells us about the solution. Our solution is there's no solution. Does 0 ever equal 1? Is $0 ever the same as $1? Never, ever. And so what this is saying is that as our variables are canceling out, we get an equation, a mathematical statement that can never be true. That's our indication that there's no solution. Okay, let's take a look at a third example, which if we can guess, it's going to be infinite solutions, but how do we see that one? Okay, so the top equation, none of our equations are in standard form, but this one's kind of easy. We're missing both x and we're missing both, y. So we can fill in 0, 0, -3, and 6. Okay, so on these other two, I need to move these terms over to the other side. So we get 2x equals 6 plus 2z minus y. And so what I want to show you is that I can move these terms to the other side without doing much mathematical work. If they're on the right-hand side, they're going to move to this side. They're going to move to that side. But they're going to change signs. So for instance, I would want my x to go first, so we have 2x minus, plus y, because the y is going to come first before the z, minus 2z, and that equals 6. So as we move from one side of the equal sign to the other, it's changing signs. And then to show you that, well, how do we get that? So what I did in my last videos is we subtract 2z, we do the opposite of minus y, and then what we do to one side, we do to the other. And at this part, we put them in that order. So if you see this notion, we can work a lot faster. So over here, we know that the 6x needs to move over here. So we're going to have 6x, but it changes signs. The y is already on the left side, and we're missing z. What we're left with is that -6 on the other side. Okay, so here we have 2, 1, -2, and 6. Keep in mind the 1 coefficient. Over here we have -6, -3, 0, and negative 6, all coming from this top equation. Now, let's say that you wanted to see it worked out by hand. Well, I'll do just that. So, negative 3y equals 6x minus 6. So we break it in half, and we want to move the 6x to the other side, so we take it away. So those cancel out, and so we get negative 6x minus 3y equals negative 6. But keep in mind, we're missing that z. So then I can write it like this. To help you see that last row. But if you can see it quickly and you can organize it like over here, then I definitely recommend. That's a nice, easy way to go and doesn't take a lot of work. All right, let's go solve this. All right, 0, 0, negative 3, and 6. Okay, so menu, 7, 5. Menu, 7, 1, 1. Okay, so we set up our rows and our columns, and now we can start to type in those values. So we get 0, 0, negative 3, and I believe that was 6. Let's go double check that. Okay, good. The next line, 2, 1, negative 2, and 6. So tab, 2, 1, negative 2, and 6. Oh, I think it was negative 6, but let's go double check. 2, 1, negative 2. Oh, it was positive 6 on this one and negative 6 on the bottom one. So it's easy to get confused between my numbers. Okay, so tab. All right, last row. Negative 6, negative 3. Okay, let's double check our numbers. All right, and we're good. And enter. Okay, so yet again, we're getting something that has these 3 zeros here. Okay, so now that we have this matrix, and this is going to be our solution to it, or it's going to tell us what the solutions are. Okay, so yet again, highlight that bottom row with the 3 zeros. And this one actually has a 4th 0. We go back to x column, y column, z column, and it equals a number on the other side. So here, this gives me 0x plus 0y plus 0z equals 0. Well, we talked about it before, that this entire side, that 0, that 0, that 0, so it all becomes just 0. And does 0 equal 0? What we can say there is, this is true all day, every day. $0 equals $0. When we find a mathematical statement that's true like this, we no longer have any variables. That tells us that this system has infinite solutions. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, that concludes what you need to know for using these matrices. And you want to feel comfortable with filling in the gaps, moving the terms to the other sides, and using those calculator steps before we get to formulating on Thursday. When we get to formulating, I expect you to know this, and it's more about answering the question that they're asking and setting up that system of equations like we did in the last unit.